What would you do if the most important moment of your life became your worst nightmare? Sarah Johnson was about to give birth to her first child when her millionaire husband disappeared with lies about a business emergency. But when those hospital elevator doors opened, she discovered something far worse than she ever imagined. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about a mother who uncovered an international conspiracy that threatened everything she loved. What started in that elevator would lead to FBI raids, corporate espionage, and a woman discovering she was capable of taking down enemies she never knew existed. If you're ready for a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat for the next hour, hit that like button now. Trust me, you won't want to pause this one. And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this are exactly why this channel exists. The elevator doors are about to open. Are you ready to see what's inside? Let's begin. Sarah Elizabeth Johnson gripped the marble countertop of her kitchen island, breathing through another contraction that felt like fire spreading through her abdomen. The digital clock on the microwave glowed 3:17 a.m. in harsh blue numbers. Where was Mike, her husband, Michael Johnson, CEO of Johnson Tech Solutions, had left for what he called an emergency board meeting 6 hours ago. His exact words echoed in her memory. Crisis with the Shanghai deal. Honey, I will be back before you know it. That was at 9:30 yesterday evening. Now, as another wave of pain crashed over her 38-week pregnant body, Sarah realized she might be having this baby completely alone. She tried calling again. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. The automated voice felt like a slap across her face. You have reached Michael Johnson. Please leave a detailed message and I will return your call as soon as possible. She had already left 4 increasingly desperate messages. Sarah had met Mike 8 years ago when he was just another ambitious programmer with big dreams and crushing student debt. She was running a small art gallery in downtown Seattle, barely making rent on her converted warehouse space. He would come in during lunch breaks, not to buy anything, but to escape the stress of his failing startup. I like how quiet it is here, he had told her once, standing in front of a painting of a stormy seascape. It feels like the eye of the hurricane. Everything is chaos outside, but in here, there is peace. Their courtship had been unconventional. While other couples went to expensive restaurants, Mike would bring sandwiches to share in her gallery after hours. He would explain his revolutionary ideas about artificial intelligence while she showed him how to analyze brushstrokes in paintings. Now he commanded a tech empire worth $200 million. Their penthouse apartment overlooked Elliott Bay with floor-to-ceiling windows. Sarah's gallery had expanded into 3 locations across the Pacific Northwest. They had everything they had ever wanted except the one thing they had wanted most desperately: a family. After 3 years of fertility treatments, miscarriages, and crushing disappointment, Sarah was finally carrying their son to full term. They had already picked the name, Lucas Michael Johnson. The nursery was painted soft blue with white trim, a handcrafted rocking chair positioned by the window where Sarah planned to nurse their son while watching ships cross the bay. Another contraction hit, stronger and longer than the previous ones. Sarah checked her pregnancy app with trembling fingers. Contractions every 4 minutes, lasting over a minute each. According to everything she had read and every class she had attended, it was definitely time to go to the hospital. She tried Mike's phone one more time, still straight to voicemail. A knot of anxiety formed in her chest that had nothing to do with labor pains. Mike had never been unreachable during any kind of crisis. Even during his most intense business negotiations, he always answered her calls immediately. Sarah called Dr. Jennifer Williams, her obstetrician and college roommate. Jen had been Sarah's maid of honor at their wedding and was the only person who knew about every miscarriage. Every failed fertility treatment. Every moment of hope and despair over the past 3 years. Jen answered on the second ring, instantly alert despite the early morning hour. Sarah, is it time? I think so. Contractions are 4 minutes apart and lasting over a minute. But Mike is not here. His phone keeps going straight to voicemail, and I have no idea where he is. Do not worry about Mike right now. Focus on you and the baby. I will meet you at St. Mary's Medical Center. Can you drive yourself, or should I send an ambulance? Sarah looked out at the empty parking garage visible from her kitchen window. Mike had taken their car, a detail that now seemed ominous rather than merely inconvenient. I will call a taxi. No, I am sending a car service. 20 minutes maximum. Pack your hospital bag and try to stay calm. Everything is going to be fine. As Sarah gathered her things, she caught her reflection in the bedroom mirror. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Dark circles shadowed her green eyes. She looked exhausted, frightened, and utterly alone. The overnight bag had been packed for 3 weeks, sitting by the bedroom door like a promise. Baby clothes in newborn and 3-month sizes, comfortable nursing gowns, and a playlist Mike had created called Lucas's First Songs. Looking at that bag now, Sarah felt the full weight of Mike's absence. The ride to St. Mary's Medical Center felt endless. Each contraction seemed to synchronize with the city lights blurring past the car window. The driver, a kind older man named Frank, kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror with paternal concern. "First baby?" he asked gently. "Yes, and my husband is missing in action somewhere in this city." Frank's eyes met hers in the mirror. "He will show up when it matters most. They always do." Sarah wanted desperately to believe him. Mike had never missed anything truly important before. Not her gallery openings, not her mother's funeral, not any of their fertility appointments. There had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe his phone battery had died. Maybe there really was a crisis that required his immediate attention. But the knot in her stomach suggested otherwise. At the hospital, Dr. Williams was waiting with a wheelchair and her trademark reassuring smile. Jen was 5 feet 2 inches with short black hair and the kind of steady, competent presence that made patients instantly feel safer. "How are we doing, Mama?" Jen asked as orderlies wheeled Sarah toward the maternity ward. "Scared," Sarah admitted without hesitation, "and completely confused about where my husband could possibly be. That's normal for first-time mothers. The fear, and Mike. Still unreachable. Jen, what if something terrible happened to him? What if there was an accident and he is lying unconscious somewhere?" Dr. Williams squeezed her shoulder with practiced reassurance. "Let's focus on getting you settled and comfortable. Then we will track down your wandering husband and get some answers." The private birthing suite was beautiful. Polished hardwood floors, a picture window overlooking the city, and a bathroom with a deep, soaking tub for pain management. Mike had insisted on the very best of everything, sparing no expense for their son's arrival into the world. He wanted everything to be perfect for Lucas, Sarah murmured as she changed into her hospital gown. "And it will be perfect," Dr. Williams assured her firmly. "Babies do not care about fancy rooms or expensive amenities. They care about being welcomed into the world by parents who love them unconditionally." As Sarah settled into the hospital bed and nurses began monitoring her vital signs, her phone finally buzzed. Mike's name flashed on the screen like an answered prayer from heaven. "Thank God," she breathed, answering immediately. "Mike, where are you?" "I am at the hospital. The baby is coming right now." "Sarah." His voice sounded strange, distant and slightly slurred, as if he was utterly exhausted or had been drinking. "Oh no, honey, I am so incredibly sorry. I got completely caught up in this absolute nightmare with the Shanghai investors. There is a 12-hour time difference, and the entire deal was falling apart in real time. I completely lost track of time." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. Something about his tone felt wrong, rehearsed. "Mike, I need you here immediately. Our son is coming into the world, and I need his father with me. I am leaving the office right this second. Traffic should not be bad at this hour. I will be there in 30 minutes, maximum. I promise. How is our little champion doing?" The casual reference to their unborn son as "our little champion" should have been comforting. Instead, it felt artificial, like something he had prepared to say. "He is fine," Sarah said, her voice tight with both physical pain and growing emotional distress. "I am the one who needs his father right now." "I will be there," he repeated, speaking too quickly. "I love you more than anything. I have to go now. I need to focus completely on driving safely." The line went dead before Sarah could respond. She stared at the phone screen, cold dread seeping into her bones like poison. Something was fundamentally wrong with that entire conversation. 2 hours later, Sarah was deep in active labor and Mike still had not arrived. Dr. Williams checked her cervix and frowned with professional concern. "You are at 6 centimeters dilation. Sarah, this baby is extremely eager to meet the world. Where exactly is Mike?" "He said he was 30 minutes away from the hospital. That was over 2 hours ago." Sarah tried calling again. This time the phone went straight to voicemail without even ringing once. "Jen, something is seriously wrong. His phone is completely turned off now. What if he had a car accident while rushing to get here?" Dr. Williams sat on the edge of the hospital bed, her expression shifting from medical professional to concerned friend. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Has Mike been acting differently lately? Any unusual behavior, unexplained absences, changes in his normal routines?" Sarah thought back over the past few months, trying to identify patterns she had previously ignored or dismissed. Mike had been working significantly longer hours, traveling more frequently for what he called high-level investor meetings. He had started going to the gym at odd times, early morning sessions before dawn or late-night workouts when he used to exercise during lunch breaks. When she asked about his day, his answers had become increasingly vague and non-specific. "He has been emotionally distant," she admitted reluctantly. "But I assumed it was just stress from expanding the business internationally." He said the Shanghai deal was extremely complicated and consuming all of his mental energy. "What exactly is this Shanghai deal that he has been working on?" "I honestly do not know the specific details," Sarah realized with growing unease. "Something about expanding Johnson Tech Solutions into the Asian market. He said it involved complex patent negotiations and regulatory approvals that I would not understand." Dr. Williams nodded, but her expression remained deeply troubled. "I am going to have our nursing staff try to reach Mike through his office emergency contact information. Sometimes expectant fathers panic when labor actually starts and need professional encouragement to get moving." While Jen made phone calls, Sarah stared out the window at downtown Seattle. Millions of lights twinkled in the pre-dawn darkness, representing millions of people going about their normal lives. Somewhere in that vast urban landscape was her husband, the father of the child she was about to deliver. But for the first time in 8 years of marriage, she had absolutely no idea where he was or what he was doing. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Mike. "So sorry, baby. Major crisis happening at the office right now. International investors are threatening to pull out completely. We'll be there very soon. Love you. Sarah read the message 3 times, analyzing each word like she might examine a painting for signs of forgery. Mike never called her baby in any context. In 8 years of marriage, he had always used her actual name, or honey, and he was extremely meticulous about punctuation and grammar. This text had none of his usual careful attention to proper writing. The message felt completely wrong, foreign, like it had been written by someone who knew Mike's basic communication patterns but not his intimate personal habits. Dr. Williams returned with Nurse Maria, both wearing expressions that made Sarah's blood run cold with dread. "We called Johnson Tech Solutions corporate headquarters," Dr. Williams said carefully, choosing her words with obvious precision. "The night security guard confirmed that the entire building has been completely empty since 8 p.m. yesterday evening. No emergency meetings, no crisis with Shanghai investors, no sign of Mike or anyone else on the premises." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow to her chest. She felt all the color drain from her face as the full implications crashed over her in waves. "That is completely impossible," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He left our apartment at 9:30 p.m. specifically to go to the office for emergency meetings. He has been there all night, dealing with the international crisis." "Sarah," Dr. Williams said gently but firmly, "there is no crisis at Johnson Tech Solutions. Whatever Mike has been doing for the past 10 hours, he has not been at his office building." For the next hour, Sarah labored while battling overwhelming waves of fear, confusion, and a growing sense of profound betrayal. The contractions were intensifying steadily, but the emotional pain was becoming harder to manage than the physical discomfort. Mike's absence had transformed from worrying concern into something much darker and more devastating. The questions multiplied with each painful contraction. Where exactly had Mike been all night? Who was he with? What was he doing that required such elaborate and detailed deception? And why had he chosen whatever it was over being present for the birth of their first child? At 7:15 a.m., the fetal monitoring equipment began showing deeply concerning changes. Lucas's heart rate was dropping significantly during each contraction, indicating potential oxygen deprivation. Dr. Williams studied the monitor readings with growing medical alarm. "Sarah, the baby is showing clear signs of distress. His heart rate is decelerating dangerously with each contraction. We cannot wait any longer for Mike to arrive. I need to take you for an emergency cesarean section immediately." "But what about Mike? He's going to miss the actual birth of his son." Dr. Williams' expression was firm but compassionate. "Right now, our absolute priority is keeping both you and Lucas safe and healthy. Everything else is completely secondary to that medical imperative." As nurses rapidly prepared Sarah for emergency surgery, she felt utterly alone despite being surrounded by competent medical professionals. This was not how she had imagined Lucas's birth during all those months of careful preparation and excited anticipation. She was supposed to be holding Mike's hand, sharing the most important and meaningful moment of their lives together, welcoming their son into the world as a united family. Instead, she was being rushed toward an operating room while her husband was somewhere else in the city, doing something he felt compelled to lie about with elaborate and ongoing deception. The operating room was a controlled storm of medical activity. Bright surgical lights, beeping electronic monitors, and the quiet efficiency of medical professionals preparing for emergency surgery. Dr. Williams worked with practiced precision while Sarah lay conscious but completely numb from the chest down due to spinal anesthesia. "Talk to me, Sarah," Dr. Williams said, her voice calm and focused despite the surgical urgency. Tell me about the beautiful nursery you and Mike prepared for Lucas. Sarah tried to concentrate on happy thoughts, anything to distract from Mike's devastating absence. Mike painted the entire room himself, she said, her voice catching with emotion. Soft blue walls with crisp white trim. We have a comfortable rocking chair positioned by the large window where I plan to nurse Lucas while watching ships cross Elliott Bay. That sounds absolutely perfect. You are doing wonderfully. Your baby will be here in just a few more minutes. At 8:47 a.m. exactly. Lucas Michael Johnson took his first breath and immediately let out a healthy, indignant cry that filled the entire operating room. Sarah burst into tears of overwhelming relief, joy, and love at that beautiful sound. He is absolutely perfect, Dr. Williams announced with genuine wonder, holding up a red-faced, screaming infant who looked remarkably alert for someone who had just entered the world. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, exactly. Listen to those powerful lungs work. As the medical team completed the surgery and thoroughly cleaned Lucas, Sarah held her son against her chest for the very first time. He had Mike's thick dark hair and what appeared to be her green eyes, though she knew newborn eye color could change significantly. In that transcendent moment, nothing else in the entire world mattered. Her son was healthy, beautiful, and finally in her loving arms. But as they wheeled Sarah toward the recovery room, the euphoria of Lucas's safe birth began mixing with the harsh reality of Mike's unexplained absence. She was now a new mother, and her husband had missed the birth of their first child because he was somewhere else, lying systematically about his whereabouts and activities. 2 hours later, as Sarah rested in her private recovery room with Lucas sleeping peacefully in his hospital bassinet beside her bed, her phone rang again. Mike's name appeared on the caller ID, and despite everything that had happened, her heart jumped with desperate hope. "Sarah, honey, I just received your voicemail about the emergency surgery." Mike's voice was breathless and panicked, with clear traffic noise audible in the background. "Is our baby okay? Are you okay? I am so incredibly sorry. I missed everything." His distress sounded completely genuine, but Sarah had learned not to trust her husband's voice over the past few hours. "Lucas is perfectly fine and healthy," she said, keeping her voice carefully controlled. "Where exactly are you right now, Mike?" "I am in the hospital parking garage at this very moment." The Shanghai situation completely exploded overnight with emergency involvement from 3 different law firms and 2 regulatory agencies. It was absolute chaos with people calling from different time zones. "I am so sorry I missed our son's birth, but I am here now and ready to meet him." Sarah closed her eyes, listening to him construct an elaborate lie in real time. "Mike, I know for certain that you were not at your office building. Security confirmed the entire place was empty all night." Complete silence stretched across the phone connection, broken only by the sound of car engines and Mike's labored breathing. "Sarah, we can discuss all of this in detail when I get upstairs to your room," he said finally, his voice shifting to a more controlled and calculated tone. "What room number are you in?" 412, North Wing of the maternity ward. "I will be right there. I love you more than anything in this world." The line went dead, leaving Sarah alone with her sleeping newborn son and the growing certainty that her marriage was built on lies she was only beginning to discover. 15 minutes later, there was a sudden medical complication. Lucas developed a slight breathing irregularity that required immediate attention from the pediatric medical team. Dr. Williams rushed into Sarah's room with 2 other doctors, their faces showing the kind of controlled concern that medical professionals display during genuine emergencies. "We need to transport Lucas to the NICU for careful observation." "Doctor, Williams explained quickly while nurses began efficiently disconnecting monitoring equipment. It is probably nothing seriously wrong, but we want to monitor his oxygen levels very closely. His breathing pattern is slightly irregular, which sometimes happens after emergency cesarean deliveries. Can I stay with him? Sarah asked, struggling to sit up despite the significant pain from her recent surgery. You just underwent major abdominal surgery less than 3 hours ago. We need to transport you on a hospital gurney if you want to accompany Lucas to the NICU. Maria will prepare you for immediate transport. Within minutes, Sarah was being carefully wheeled through the hospital corridors toward the NICU, her entire world reduced to the sound of gurney wheels on polished floors and the sight of Lucas in a portable incubator being pushed alongside her. The medical procession moved quickly and purposefully through the maternity ward toward the main elevator bank, which provided the most direct route to the 5th-floor NICU. As they approached the elevator area, Sarah heard the familiar electronic ding of arriving elevator cars. Multiple elevators served this busy section of the hospital, and the medical team had called ahead to ensure immediate transport for the emergency. The doors to the center elevator slid open with mechanical precision. Time completely stopped. Standing inside the elevator was Mike. His expensive tailored gray suit, the same one he claimed to have worn to emergency office meetings, was badly wrinkled and disheveled. His usually perfect hair looked like he had been running his hands through it repeatedly for hours. His face displayed a mixture of panic, exhaustion, and guilt that Sarah had never seen in 8 years of marriage. But Mike was not alone in that elevator. Next to him stood a strikingly beautiful young woman with long blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. She was wearing what had clearly once been an expensive black cocktail dress, but it was now torn at the shoulder seam and stained with what looked like spilled wine or coffee. Her left hand was wrapped in what appeared to be a makeshift bandage constructed from white hotel towels, now spotted with dried blood. The blonde woman was leaning against Mike with unmistakable intimacy and vulnerability. Her head rested naturally on his shoulder, and his arm was wrapped protectively around her waist, supporting her weight with the instinctive care of someone who deeply concerned about her well-being, for a heartbeat that felt like an eternity. Mike's eyes met Sarah's across the elevator threshold. His expression shifted from initial panic to absolute, devastating horror as he realized exactly what Sarah was witnessing. His wife, recovering from emergency surgery to deliver their first child, was seeing him in an obviously intimate embrace with another woman. The young blonde woman looked up, following Mike's stricken gaze with confusion. Her blue eyes widened dramatically as she took in the scene before her. Sarah lying vulnerable on a hospital gurney in a medical gown. A tiny baby in a medical incubator surrounded by urgent medical personnel rushing to provide emergency care. "Oh my God," the woman whispered, her voice carrying the refined accent of someone well-educated and socially sophisticated. Sarah felt like she was falling through infinite space, the anesthesia from her recent surgery making her feel disconnected from her physical body, while the emotional impact hit her consciousness with absolutely devastating clarity. Her husband, who had missed the birth of their son due to fabricated business emergencies, was standing in an elevator at the very same hospital with another woman who was clearly injured and whom he was protecting with unmistakable tenderness and intimacy. The scene was so surreal, so completely outside the realm of anything Sarah could have imagined in her worst nightmares, that for several moments her brain refused to process the visual information. This had to be some kind of mistake, a hallucination brought on by surgical anesthesia and emotional exhaustion, but Mike's expression of absolute guilt and terror told her everything she needed to know about the reality of the situation. Dr. Williams, who had been focused entirely on Lucas and the medical emergency, followed Sarah's devastated gaze to the elevator. When she saw Mike standing intimately with the blonde woman, her professional composure transformed into a fury so intense it was frightening to witness. "You son of a bitch," Dr. Williams said, her voice low and deadly, carrying 8 years of friendship with Sarah and professional outrage at what she was observing. Mike stepped forward awkwardly, still supporting the injured woman, his mind clearly scrambling desperately for explanations that might possibly make sense of this impossible situation. "Sarah, please let me explain everything," he said with obvious desperation. "This is not what it looks like. I can explain absolutely everything that has happened. Get out of our way immediately." Dr. Williams snapped with complete medical authority. "We have a serious medical emergency here and cannot be delayed." The hospital elevator was too small to accommodate Sarah's gurney, Lucas's incubator, and the full medical team with Mike and the mysterious woman already occupying the space. Mike and the blonde pressed themselves against the back wall as medical personnel maneuvered Sarah and Lucas into the confined elevator with practiced efficiency born of countless similar emergencies. The elevator felt suffocating, thick with unspoken accusations, urgent medical necessity, and the unmistakable tension of a marriage imploding in real time. Sarah found herself trapped in a small metal box with her newborn son requiring emergency care, competent medical staff, her lying husband, and the injured woman who represented the complete destruction of everything she had believed about her life and marriage. As the elevator doors closed with finality and the car began its ascent to the NICU, Sarah stared fixedly at the ceiling tiles and tried to process the impossible reality of her situation. The elevator ride lasted only 90 seconds, but those 90 seconds felt like a lifetime, time in which her fundamental understanding of her marriage, her husband, and her future shifted completely and irreversibly. The NICU was a hushed sanctuary of advanced medical technology, specialized incubators, and the soft sounds of premature and medically vulnerable infants fighting for their lives. Through the large glass windows of the unit, Sarah could see nurses wearing colorful scrubs connecting Lucas to sophisticated monitoring equipment and oxygen delivery systems with the gentle efficiency that comes from years of experience with fragile newborns. Dr. Williams knelt beside Sarah's wheelchair, her professional medical demeanor intact despite the emotional chaos of the previous few minutes. "Lucas is in absolutely excellent hands," she said with firm reassurance. "The respiratory issue appears to be minor, probably just residual amniotic fluid that needs time to clear from his lungs naturally. We want to be extremely cautious with any breathing irregularities in newborns, but he should be ready to return to your room within just a few hours." Sarah nodded numbly, unable to take her eyes away from her son. Through the clear plastic walls of his medical incubator, Lucas looked impossibly small, but undeniably strong, his tiny chest rising and falling with determined, steady breaths. Behind them, Mike was still providing physical support to the blonde woman, who continued to seem unsteady on her feet despite her earlier apparent composure in the elevator. Up close, without the initial shock of discovery, Sarah could observe that the woman was strikingly beautiful in a carefully maintained, artificial way, the kind of polished physical perfection that suggested expensive cosmetic procedures, professional styling, and a lifestyle that required constant maintenance and significant financial resources. "Sarah, please listen to me," Mike said, his voice cracking with obvious desperation and fear. "This woman's name is Ashley Thompson, and she works as a representative for one of our potential international investors. She experienced a serious medical emergency during our late-night business meeting. I brought her to this hospital because St. Mary's was the closest medical facility with the best emergency care reputation in the city. For the first time since the elevator doors had opened to destroy her world, Sarah looked directly at her husband with full attention. His explanation sounded superficially plausible, even reasonable under normal circumstances. A business associate experiencing a medical emergency. A concerned colleague providing necessary assistance to ensure proper medical care. But something fundamental in Mike's eyes, a flicker of panic that went far beyond normal worry about a business associate, told a completely different story. "Where exactly was this business meeting taking place?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the emotional hurricane raging inside her chest. Mike hesitated for just a moment, but that brief moment was more than sufficient to confirm Sarah's growing suspicions about systematic deception. "The Grand Hotel downtown," he said finally, with slightly too much precision. "Conference room 12 on the executive floor. We were working until very late on the final details of their international investment proposal." Sarah felt a chill that had absolutely nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning system. The Grand Hotel was Mike's preferred location for clients he wanted to impress or intimidate, a calculated power move designed to showcase success, influence, and financial resources. But it was also the location where Mike had taken her for their 5th wedding anniversary dinner, where he had proposed during their 3rd year together, where they had celebrated every major business milestone and personal achievement. It was their special place, full of intimate memories and deep private significance. "Why is her hand injured so severely?" Sarah asked, noting the makeshift bandage that was clearly not professional medical treatment. Ashley Thompson spoke for the first time since her whispered exclamation in the elevator, her voice shaky and uncertain, but carrying subtle undertones of someone normally accustomed to being in complete control of situations. "I experienced a severe panic attack during the complex financial negotiations," she said, not quite meeting Sarah's direct gaze. The pressure of the multi-million-dollar deal, the extremely late hour, the complexity of the international regulatory requirements, it all became overwhelming. I fell and cut my hand badly on broken glass when I tried to steady myself against the conference room table during the attack. The explanation was neat, logical, and complete with specific details that lent credibility to her account. Sarah wanted desperately to believe this reasonable story. The alternative, that her husband was conducting an extramarital affair and had brought his mistress to the very hospital where she was giving birth to their first child, was too devastating and surreal to seriously consider. But even as part of her mind grasped desperately for the comfort and security of Mike's plausible explanation, her deepest instincts were screaming that something was fundamentally and dangerously wrong with the entire situation. As they prepared to leave the NICU and return Sarah to her recovery room, Ashley's cell phone rang with an electronic chime. She answered quickly and efficiently, stepping several feet away from Mike with movements that seemed significantly more fluid and confident than someone recovering from a severe panic attack should realistically possess. "Yes, I am perfectly fine now," Ashley said into the phone, her voice carrying clearly in the quiet, controlled environment of the NICU. "No, the meeting went exactly according to our planned schedule. The package was delivered successfully and completely." Sarah caught only fragments of the one-sided conversation, but something about Ashley's tone had changed completely and dramatically. Gone entirely was the shaky vulnerability and medical distress she had displayed just moments earlier. In its place was a crisp, business-like professionalism that suggested this phone call was significantly more important to her than the supposed medical emergency that had brought her to the hospital. "Yes, Bobby, I have absolutely everything we discussed in our previous conversations," Ashley continued, apparently completely oblivious to the fact that both Sarah and Mike could hear every single word she was speaking. "Johnson Tech Solutions will not know what hit them when we proceed to the next phase. The timeline is proceeding exactly according to our original schedule." The name Bobby sent a bolt of ice-cold realization straight through Sarah's chest and into her heart. Bobby Harrison was Mike's biggest and most dangerous competitor, the ruthless CEO of Harrison Dynamics who had been attempting to acquire Johnson Tech Solutions through increasingly aggressive and questionable tactics for the past 2 years. Mike stepped quickly toward Ashley, his facial expression shifting rapidly from confusion to dawning suspicion to the first hints of genuine fear. "Ashley," he said sharply, his voice carrying new authority and demand. "Who exactly are you talking to on that phone?" Ashley ended the phone call abruptly with obvious haste and turned back toward them with a smile that now appeared more predatory than friendly. The transformation was subtle, but absolutely unmistakable, like watching a carefully constructed mask slip away to reveal something calculating and potentially dangerous underneath. "I really should leave now," she said smoothly. Her earlier unsteadiness and medical distress completely vanished. "Thank you so much for bringing me here for medical attention. Mike, I sincerely hope your wife and your new baby are both completely healthy and recover quickly." She walked away with confident, purposeful strides, leaving Mike staring after her with an expression that mixed confusion, growing suspicion, and the beginnings of genuine fear about what he might have become involved in. Sarah watched Ashley disappear around the corner of the hospital corridor, complex pieces of an intricate puzzle beginning to click into place in her mind with frightening clarity. The phone conversation mentioning Bobby Harrison by name, the specific reference to a package being delivered and Johnson Tech Solutions not knowing what would hit them, the complete personality transformation from vulnerable medical patient to confident business professional in the space of a single phone call. "Mike," Sarah said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying unmistakable steel. "How long have you been working directly with Ashley Thompson?" Mike turned back toward her, and for the first time since she had known him, he looked genuinely lost and uncertain. "About 6 months total," he said with obvious reluctance and growing concern. She claimed to represent a sophisticated venture capital firm with significant international connections and substantial capital reserves for investment in our Asian market expansion. "What is the exact name of this investment firm?" Mike's hesitation lasted significantly longer this time, and when he finally spoke, his voice carried the hollow ring of someone beginning to realize they had been systematically manipulated and deceived. "I do not remember the precise name off the top of my head," he admitted with growing unease. "It was described as some kind of complex international investment consortium involving multiple shell companies and a very complicated corporate structure." Sarah felt something fundamental break inside her chest, not just her heart, but her basic understanding of the man she had married and trusted completely. Her husband was not simply lying to her about where he had been and who he had been with. He had been systematically manipulated by someone with direct connections to their biggest business rival, and he was either too naive, too compromised, or too emotionally involved to recognize the deception clearly. The woman he had brought to the hospital while Sarah was giving birth to their son was not just his mistress or emotional affair partner. She was potentially a professional corporate spy who had been playing him systematically for months while extracting sensitive information that could completely destroy everything they had built together over 8 years of marriage and business partnership. Back in her private recovery room, Dr. Williams helped Sarah settle comfortably into bed and administered appropriate pain medication for her post-surgical recovery. The physical relief was immediate and significant, but the emotional pain felt like an enormous weight pressing down on her chest, making normal breathing difficult. "Jen," Sarah said when they were finally alone and the door was closed, "I need you to be completely honest with me. As my doctor and as my friend who has known me for over a decade, what do you think just happened up there in the NICU, Dr. Williams sat down in the comfortable chair beside Sarah's hospital bed, allowing her professional medical mask to drop completely and reveal 8 years of genuine friendship and deep personal concern. "I think your husband is in extremely serious trouble," she said with brutal honesty. "And I think that woman is definitely not who she claims to be or what she appears to represent." The phone conversation specifically mentioned Bobby Harrison and something about Johnson Tech Solutions not knowing what would hit them. Mike's biggest competitor, the CEO who has been attempting to buy or destroy Johnson Tech Solutions through hostile takeover attempts for the past 2 years. Sarah nodded grimly, feeling pieces of a complex and dangerous puzzle forming a picture she desperately did not want to see. Ashley also mentioned something about a package being delivered successfully and everything proceeding according to their original timeline. Dr. Williams was quiet for a long moment, processing all the implications of what they had witnessed. "Sarah, you just underwent major surgery. You are exhausted both physically and emotionally. You are on significant pain medication, and you have been through massive emotional trauma in the past 12 hours. Maybe we are reading too much into fragments of a phone conversation we accidentally overheard. Or maybe my husband just got completely played by a professional corporate spy while I was giving birth to his son." The words hung in the air between them, too terrible to dismiss, but too devastating to fully accept without additional evidence. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to make sense of the past 12 hours. Mike's elaborate lies about his whereabouts and activities. Ashley Thompson's conveniently timed panic attack followed immediately by her confident phone call to Bobby Harrison. The specific references to packages being delivered and Johnson Tech Solutions being unprepared for whatever was coming next. Either her husband was conducting a straightforward extramarital affair, or he was the victim of an elaborate corporate espionage scheme designed to steal sensitive business information, or most terrifyingly, both possibilities could be simultaneously true. As the prescribed pain medication began taking effect, Sarah felt herself drifting toward desperately needed sleep. But even as consciousness faded, she could not escape the devastating image of Mike standing in that elevator with another woman while their newborn son was fighting for his first breaths in the world. Sarah woke to late afternoon sunlight streaming through her hospital room window, creating geometric patterns on the polished floor. For a moment, disoriented by medication and exhaustion, she felt relatively peaceful. Then the events of the morning crashed back into her consciousness like a physical assault, and she remembered that everything fundamental in her life had changed. Dr. Williams was sitting in the chair beside her bed, quietly reading a medical chart while keeping one watchful eye on the hallway for any signs of Mike's return. "How long was I asleep?" Sarah asked, her voice hoarse from the anesthesia and emotional strain. "About 4 hours total. Lucas is doing much better. His breathing has normalized completely, and all his vital signs are excellent. He is ready to return to your room whenever you feel prepared to have him back." Relief washed over Sarah like a warm tide. Whatever else was falling apart in her personal life, her son was healthy and safe. And Mike, he left about an hour ago. Said he needed to handle some extremely urgent business matters at his office, but promised he would return tonight for visiting hours. Dr. Williams's tone carried obvious disapproval that she did not attempt to hide. Sarah felt the familiar pang of abandonment, now amplified by everything that had happened, even after the lies, the mysterious woman, the devastating scene in the elevator. Mike was still prioritizing business concerns over being present with his family during one of the most important and emotionally challenging days of their lives. "Jen, I need to ask you for a significant favor," Sarah said, struggling to sit up despite the considerable surgical pain. "As my friend, not as my doctor." Dr. Williams closed the medical chart and gave Sarah her complete attention. "What do you need?" "I need detailed information about Ashley Thompson's medical treatment here this morning. I need to know what her injuries actually indicate, what kind of medical care she received, and anything else the hospital records might reveal about what really happened to her. Sarah, that is strictly confidential patient information protected by federal law. I could lose my medical license permanently for accessing another patient's records without proper authorization. I understand the enormous risk you would be taking, Sarah said, meeting her friend's eyes with desperate sincerity. But something is fundamentally wrong about this entire situation. If Mike is being systematically targeted by corporate spies, I need to know the truth so I can protect our family and our business from further damage. If he is having a traditional extramarital affair, I need to know that reality so I can make informed decisions about our marriage and Lucas's future welfare. Dr. Williams was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing professional ethics and legal requirements against personal loyalty and genuine concern for Sarah's well-being. "Let me see what I can find out through completely unofficial channels," she said finally. "I have a close friend working in the emergency department who might be willing to share some general observations without violating specific patient confidentiality requirements." While Dr. Williams made discreet inquiries through her professional network, Sarah called her mother in Portland to share the news about Lucas's birth. She kept the conversation focused entirely on positive aspects: his weight, his health status, how beautiful and alert he appeared, while carefully avoiding any mention of Mike's absence, the medical complications, or the devastating personal crisis surrounding the delivery. "He sounds absolutely perfect, sweetheart," her mother said, her voice warm with grandmotherly pride and excitement. "When can your father and I drive up to Seattle to meet our first grandson?" "Maybe in a few days," Sarah replied carefully. "I want to get settled at home first. Make sure Lucas is nursing well and sleeping through the night consistently." What she really wanted was sufficient time to understand exactly what was happening with Mike and Ashley Thompson before involving her parents in what might become a very public and messy marital crisis with potential business implications. An hour later, Dr. Williams returned to Sarah's room with an expression that mixed professional medical concern with personal anger on behalf of her friend. "I was able to obtain some general information through my emergency department contact," she said, closing the door carefully and sitting close to Sarah's bedside. Ashley Thompson was treated for a deep laceration on her left palm that required 6 surgical stitches, but that is not the most concerning aspect of her medical examination. What is the concerning part? She also presented with extensive bruising on both wrists and her upper arms that the attending emergency physician specifically documented as being consistent with defensive wounds, injuries typically sustained when someone grabs you forcefully during a physical altercation or when you are attempting to protect yourself during a violent struggle. Sarah felt her heart sink even as pieces of the puzzle began forming a clearer and more disturbing picture. So, she was not simply injured during an accidental fall caused by a panic attack. The emergency room doctor specifically noted in his official report that Ashley's injury pattern was completely atypical for a simple fall or medical episode. The bruising on her wrists appeared consistent with someone grabbing and restraining her forcefully. The deep laceration on her palm was consistent with gripping something sharp during a physical struggle. Sarah stared out the window at the Seattle skyline, trying to process this new information while managing the implications. Did Mike cause those defensive injuries? There is no way to determine that conclusively from the medical evidence alone, Dr. Williams said carefully. But Sarah, there is something else significant. Ashley's personal effects when she was admitted to the emergency department included a high-capacity USB drive, the specific type used for transferring large amounts of digital data between computer systems. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow to her chest. Corporate espionage involving stolen digital files and trade secrets. Defensive wounds suggesting a violent physical confrontation. Mike's obvious and ongoing lies about his whereabouts and activities. Ashley Thompson's phone call to Bobby Harrison mentioning successful package delivery. Jen, I think Ashley Thompson seduced my husband emotionally in order to steal sensitive company secrets and proprietary information, Sarah said slowly, the pieces clicking into place with terrible clarity. And I think Mike finally discovered what she was really doing. If that analysis is correct, then Mike is as much a victim of this situation as you are. But he still made the choice to be with her instead of being here for Lucas's birth. Sarah's voice carried the deep pain of that fundamental betrayal. Whatever was happening with Ashley Thompson, he prioritized dealing with it over being present for the most important moment in our family's life. Dr. Williams sat on the edge of the hospital bed, choosing her words with obvious care. Sarah, you have some extremely difficult decisions to make over the next few days and weeks. But first, you absolutely must focus on recovering from major surgery and establishing a healthy bonding relationship with your son. Everything else can wait until you are physically and emotionally stronger. A soft knock interrupted their intense conversation. A nurse entered the room, pushing Lucas in his hospital bassinet, and Sarah's heart immediately filled with overwhelming love and relief at seeing her son again. Someone is very eager to see his mama, the nurse said with a genuine warm smile. His breathing is completely normal now, and he has been asking for his first real feeding session. As Sarah held Lucas against her chest and felt him latch successfully for breastfeeding, nothing else in the entire world seemed to matter. Her son was healthy, beautiful, and completely dependent on her for everything he needed to survive and thrive. In that transcendent moment, her priorities crystallized with absolute clarity. "Hello, little man," she whispered, gently stroking his impossibly soft, dark hair. "I am your mother, and I promise I will always protect you no matter what else happens in this complicated world." As Lucas nursed contentedly, Sarah felt a fierce maternal protective instinct awakening that she had never experienced before in her life. Whatever was happening between her and Mike, whatever corporate espionage or personal betrayals were threatening their family's security, her son's welfare and future came first above all other considerations. She needed to understand the complete truth about Ashley Thompson and her connections to Bobby Harrison. That evening, Mike returned to the hospital carrying an enormous bouquet of white roses, Sarah's favorite flowers, and wearing an expression that mixed guilt, exhaustion, and what appeared to be genuine fear. "How are you feeling?" he asked, maintaining careful distance from the hospital bed as if afraid to come closer. "Like I was surgically cut open this morning while my husband was somewhere else with another woman," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the emotional turmoil churning underneath. Mike flinched visibly as if she had physically slapped him. "Sarah, I swear to you on Lucas's life, nothing physically inappropriate happened between Ashley and me. She is a business associate who experienced a medical emergency, and I provided assistance because it was the ethical thing to do." "Mike, stop lying to me." Sarah's voice was quiet, but carried a new authority that he had never heard before. "I know Ashley Thompson works for Bobby Harrison. I heard her phone conversation." Mike's face went completely white, all color draining away instantly. "You do not understand the full complexity of what has been happening over the past 6 months. Then explain it to me completely. All of it. No more lies, no more omissions, no more protecting me from allegedly complicated business matters that I supposedly would not understand." Mike sat down heavily in the visitor chair, and for the first time since Sarah had known him, he looked genuinely defeated and lost. The confident technology executive who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals was completely gone, replaced by someone who looked frightened and uncertain. "Bobby Harrison has been systematically trying to destroy Johnson Tech Solutions for the past 2 years," he began slowly and reluctantly. Not simply acquire our company through normal business competition, completely destroy us as a viable entity. He has initiated 3 separate hostile takeover attempts, all of which failed because we consistently maintain superior technology and stronger market positioning. So he decided to try a different approach entirely. 6 months ago, Ashley Thompson approached me at a major technology conference in San Francisco. She claimed to represent a sophisticated consortium of international investors with specific interest in our Asian market expansion plans. The investment opportunity she described in detail was exactly what we needed to accelerate our growth and maintain our competitive advantage over companies like Harrison Dynamics. Sarah felt sick as she began to understand the scope of her husband's naivety and emotional vulnerability. And you believed her completely. I wanted desperately to believe her. Mike admitted with obvious shame. The business meetings always took place in neutral, public locations, expensive hotels, high-end restaurants, professional conference centers. She was incredibly intelligent, charming, and seemed to understand our proprietary technology better than most legitimate venture capitalists I had worked with previously. How emotionally involved did you become with her, Mike? The question Sarah had to ask but dreaded hearing the answer to. Mike was quiet for a long, painful moment, staring at his hands while Lucas slept peacefully in Sarah's arms, completely unaware of the adult drama surrounding his first day of life. Not physically, he said finally, his voice barely audible. I never cheated on you sexually, but emotionally, yes, I became very involved. She made me feel like the brilliant, innovative programmer I used to be instead of just another corporate executive drowning in spreadsheets, board meetings, and administrative responsibilities. Sarah felt the knife of emotional infidelity twist brutally in her chest. So you gave her access to sensitive company secrets and proprietary information. I shared technical specifications and development timelines that I believed were essentially public knowledge already. But yesterday evening, I realized she had been systematically copying confidential files from my laptop computer during our private meetings. Probably using that USB drive your friend discovered in her personal hospital effects. Sarah looked down at Lucas, her son completely innocent and unaware that his father had potentially compromised his entire future through poor judgment and emotional manipulation. What exactly happened in the hotel room this morning? Mike's voice dropped to a whisper. I confronted her directly about the stolen data. She initially denied everything, but when I insisted on examining my laptop computer, she panicked completely. There was a violent physical struggle when I tried to prevent her from leaving. She grabbed a heavy glass paperweight and swung it at my head. I had to defend myself, and that's how her hand got severely cut. And you brought her to this hospital because I couldn't allow her to disappear with whatever sensitive intelligence she had gathered. I needed to keep her under observation until I could assess the damage. Sarah processed this while watching her son sleep. Mike had been victimized by corporate espionage, but he had also emotionally betrayed their marriage. Mike, you missed our son's birth because you were dealing with consequences of your poor judgment. I know. I'll regret it forever. Trust, once broken, couldn't be easily repaired, but Lucas deserved parents who could work together to protect his future. I need time to think, and complete honesty from now on. No more lies or omissions. Over the following week, Sarah researched Ashley Thompson using Art World contacts who specialized in fraud investigation. Her breakthrough came from Marcus Chen, a private investigator. The woman you're describing matches someone we've tracked for 2 years, Marcus said. Real name probably Amanda Stevens. She's a freelance intelligence operative specializing in technology company infiltration. How many companies has she targeted? At least 6. 3 went bankrupt within a year. 2 were acquired by competitors under suspicious circumstances. Marcus, she threatened my baby. If Amanda threatened your child, someone's paying enormous money to ensure Johnson Tech is completely eliminated. When Mike learned Amanda's real identity, he revealed crucial information. 5 years ago, Bobby Harrison approached me about partnership. He wanted to merge companies with him as CEO. I refused because I discovered Bobby had stolen technology from previous partners. When I refused, he decided to destroy us instead. Sarah understood the scope. We can't fight this through conventional channels. They've been planning this for years. Then what do you suggest? We beat them at their own game. Sarah assembled a professional team, Marcus Chen for investigation, Jennifer Kim for cybersecurity, and Patricia Moore, a lawyer specializing in corporate crime. If Bobby and Amanda want professional warfare against our family, we'll show them what that actually looks like, she told Mike. Jennifer's findings were devastating. Amanda installed advanced spyware monitoring your personal communications, medical appointments, even fertility treatments. The software could remotely activate Mike's camera and microphone. She's potentially watched your most private moments for months. Marcus revealed the larger conspiracy: Amanda's link to global strategic solutions, corporate espionage for hire with foreign government connections. She's simultaneously targeted 12 American technology companies over 3 years. Sarah realized the scope. So Bobby isn't Amanda's real client. He's another weapon in a larger attack on American technology. Exactly, Patricia confirmed. Global Strategic Solutions systematically destroys or transfers American innovations to foreign competitors. Sarah made a strategic decision. We turn Amanda Stevens into a federal witness. She's facing charges for espionage, money laundering, conspiracy, Jennifer explained. We present our evidence to the FBI. She gets immunity for cooperating against her handlers. That transforms Mike from a fool into a victim of international espionage, Marcus added. Bobby's legal challenges disappear when he realizes he's been manipulated by foreign intelligence. 3 days later, Sarah presented their evidence to Special Agent Patricia Moore of the FBI's Corporate Crime Division. Mrs. Johnson, this is exceptional work, Agent Moore said. We arrest Amanda on immediate charges, then offer immunity for cooperation against the larger conspiracy. When do we proceed? Tomorrow. Amanda's meeting her handlers to deliver final intelligence. We'll arrest her then. The next afternoon, Sarah watched from an FBI command center as federal agents arrested Amanda Stevens at a downtown hotel meeting with her handlers. Amanda Stevens, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, identity fraud, and conspiracy, Agent Moore announced as Amanda was handcuffed. Sarah felt something fundamental shift as she watched the woman who had threatened her child being led away. The immediate threat was neutralized, but the experience had transformed her from gallery owner to someone capable of outmaneuvering international conspiracies. 6 months later, Amanda testified before a federal grand jury about systematic targeting of American technology companies by international intelligence services. Bobby Harrison withdrew his takeover attempts and provided information about other suspicious foreign approaches. Johnson Tech Solutions not only survived but thrived, reaching record stock prices after publicity surrounding their role in exposing international espionage. Sarah had discovered capabilities she never knew she possessed. She started Johnson Security Solutions, helping other companies protect against corporate espionage, turning her ordeal into protection for American innovation. 1 year later, holding their second child Emma in the same hospital room where Lucas was born, Sarah reflected on their transformation. Mike had undergone therapy and was fully present for Emma's birth. Their marriage, rebuilt on complete honesty, was stronger than before. Any final word on the international investigation? Mike asked. Agent Moore called yesterday. They've identified operations in 15 countries, prevented 30 corporate acquisitions based on stolen American technology. And Amanda, still in witness protection, testifying worldwide. As they settled their children for the night, Sarah realized the woman wheeled through that hospital elevator 18 months ago no longer existed. In her place was someone who had learned that protecting what you love sometimes requires becoming someone you never imagined. When those elevator doors opened, they hadn't just revealed betrayal, they'd revealed a woman capable of fighting forces much larger than herself. Their story began with betrayal, but ended with triumph, proving that love, when tested by adversity, could emerge stronger than anyone imagined. The millionaire had taken his mistress to the hospital where his wife was giving birth. But those elevator doors had opened onto something far more powerful, a mother's determination to protect her children's future, no matter the cost.